The gospel that was just read this morning occurred in the temple just a few days before Jesus was arrested, put on trial, and crucified. Now, the Pharisees and Sadducees had taken turns trying to trap Jesus in his own words. The Sadducees had just tried to trap Jesus on the doctrine of the resurrection of the dead. We heard that a couple weeks ago. And last week's gospel revealed how the Pharisees tried to get him by questioning him regarding the distinction between church and state. Now, both the Pharisees and the Sadducees were considered the elite of their time. Both groups held power. Both groups imposed laws on the common man which they themselves did not follow. Both groups were disparaging of Jesus' connection with the common man. Both groups disapproved of Jesus himself. They could not even acknowledge any of the good that Jesus had done. They were only trying to trip him up so they could have some evidence to discredit him. They suffered from Jesus' derangement syndrome. Now, Jesus does not conform to what the Pharisees and Sadducees thinks a religious leader should be like, should act like, should sound like. As all people who comprise the elite, the Pharisees and Sadducees really hated the common man, thought they knew best, found those that did not agree with them to be simply ignorant, deplorable people. They just could not comprehend how people could be following this peasant leader who called it as he saw it, who spoke in ways the common person could understand. This Jesus who associated with sinners and tax collectors. And what made matters worse, Jesus was regularly calling them out, exposing their corruption, their hypocrisy, and they didn't like it. So they sought to silence Jesus, and if necessary, even destroy him. They took every opportunity to criticize, to mock him, and when that didn't work, they made up stuff to discredit him. So in last week's gospel, Jesus answers their question about state and religion by simply pointing out a Roman coin. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's. This week they try again by asking him to name the greatest commandment of God. And Jesus quotes Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. Now, they simply cannot disagree with this because it sums up the first 3 commandments of the 10 commandments. And then Jesus adds the words of Leviticus. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Now, this covers the rest of the 10 commandments. It's logically true that one cannot truly love one's neighbor unless one first loves God. And you simply cannot claim to love God unless you love your neighbor. So what appears as 2 separate commandments are really one commandment, or at least 2 sides of one coin. As Catholics, we take this admonition very seriously. In fact, we have developed a rich tradition which comprises Catholic social teaching. We believe that the poor should be considered first, not last. We believe that our hearts should be open to the immigrant. We believe that we have a responsibility to safeguard the environment. We believe that racism and bigotry in any form is unacceptable and we cannot tolerate it. We believe that workers have the right to organize and engage in collective bargaining. There are many, many areas covered in Catholic social teaching that as Catholics, we are not only called to believe in, but are called to work toward in the political world so that these beliefs are woven into the fabric of our society. Now, we can disagree on how best to attend to these issues, but as Americans and as Catholic Christians, we must attend to them one way or another. However, paramount to all those teachings is the principle that life is sacred. Catholics believe that life is the greatest and most precious gift that God has given us. We not only believe that God has given us this life, but He has given us life made in His image. All our social teachings are based on this belief that humankind was made in the image of God. Therefore, we take care of the poor. Therefore, we protect the environment. Therefore, we welcome the stranger. Therefore, we care for the sick, feed those who are hungry, visit those who are in prison. But don't be fooled. We cannot discuss Catholic social teaching authentically without confronting the greatest and most immediate threat to life, the evil called abortion. This is not one issue among many. No, it is the most pressing issue our society faces, because as we sit here in church this morning, babies within the womb are being cruelly, painfully dismembered, burnt to death, murdered. And believe it or not, it's done legally. Every minute of every day, every minute, 98 babies are aborted. By the time I finish this homily today, there will be at least 500 babies that will be destroyed within the womb. We bear a responsibility for this crime by our apathy, by our inaction, or overtly by our vote when we elect those who protect and seek to cover up this horrific crime. Several years ago, I gave a sermon entitled, "Your House is on Fire," and here's the basic logic of that sermon. I argue that if you're sitting at home and you notice that your window is broken and the warm air is escaping, your faucet is broke, it's leaking, and the dripping of the water is warping the floor. There's a short in your electrical system, risking a debilitating shock. Oh, and did I mention your house is on fire? Do you get up on the ladder to fix the window? Do you find a wrench and try to tighten the plumbing, or do you call an electrician to fix the wiring? No, you jump up and you try to put out the fire. Innocent lives are being sacrificed this moment. Their silent cries demand that we take notice and do something, even if that's only refraining from voting for a person who will expand this inherently racist activity of abortion. Black babies and brown babies are disproportionately targeted for death through abortion. We hear a lot these days, slogan, Black Lives Matter. And I want you to know I agree with that 100%. Black lives matter. But all lives matter. Black lives matter, brown lives matter, yellow lives matter, white lives matter, and unborn lives matter. What I don't understand is how the Black Lives Matter organization, objectively a Marxist group calling for the destruction of the nuclear family, could rightly call out the 70 or so cases last year where police unnecessarily killed a black man, when they don't seem to give 2 cents for the hundreds of thousands of black babies murdered in the womb last year. Don't those Black lives matter? I think they do. Nor do I understand how anyone can diminish the urgency of abortion by arguing that it's only one of many issues and then simply dismissing that issue in favor of something else. Instead of putting out the fire in your house, you do get a ladder to fix the window. Another example, you're on the street. You see a homeless man, and you want to help him out. You see a group of environmentalists planting a tree, and you want to support that as well. And then in the busy street lies a newborn baby in the line of rapid traffic. What do? Do you go over and give money to the homeless man? Do you help dig the hole for the tree, for the environmentalists? Or do you run into the street waving your arms trying to stop traffic so you can save the baby? What would you do? I think that if we fail to help the poor, we will be held responsible. I believe if we close our eyes to the plight of the immigrant, we will be held responsible. I believe if we ignore the needs of our planet, we will be held responsible. And I believe if we don't try to save the babies, we will be held responsible. My good people, let us be responsible. Let the church say,